I want to take a look at the tangent and the cotangent graph for you. We've looked at sine, we've looked at cosine. Now let's take a look at tangent. I'm going to go over here to my little wrench, and I'm going to make sure that my settings, I'm going to put my settings in degrees. I've changed my x-axis from negative 360 to 360 because I'm looking at the unit circle. And this did this for me, but I'm going to go ahead and change this to negative 1 to positive 1, simply because sine and cosine, the largest number is a 1 and the smallest number is a negative 1 on sine and cosine. And tangent is actually sine divided by cosine. So this will give us a reference point to look at. Now, if I go over here and I graph it, so y equals tangent x. Notice that there are big spaces, and let's zoom out a little bit so you can see. If I just keep zooming out, you can see that there are spaces between my curves here. I'm going to zoom back out so that it's not so much that we're having to look at. Okay. If I click here, you can see it's 0, 0 on the unit circle. This one is 180, 0 on the unit circle. And, so forth. This is 360, 0. And if you go around, that unit circle that we've looked at, we could actually build a table. Let's build part of a table anyway. And it auto defaults to negative 2 all the way up through 2, but let's change it so that it's with our unit circle. So let's just start with 0 since we see that on our unit circle. And we're going to go 0. Let's do 30 degrees and 45 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. And that's the first quadrant. And if you look around, since tangent is sine divided by cosine, it's also y divided by x. And if you look at the ordered pair at 0, for 0, you have the ordered pair out 1 and up 0. So 1 for x and 0 for y. And it won't let me, it won't let me put that in there because this is just doing tangent of 1. But it's an ordered pair of 1, 0 is what's there. And I can actually do another one. I can put that point on there so you can see. But if I put it, it's right here in that same spot. It's at the point 1, 0, because as I go around the unit circle, the y is 0 and the x is 1. And that's at 0 degrees. And so since tangent is sine divided by cosine, it would be your 0, which is the y value, divided by 1. And 0 divided by 1 is 0. If you look over here at 90 degrees, it's flip-flopped. And it is 0, 1. And if you notice, that's going to put that point right here if we're looking at that. And this is actually 30 degrees, 0.5774. But if we pull it out a little bit where we can see it, this is the 0.01. So if I were on that unit circle and I plotted that point, it would be right there. If I did tangent, though, tangent is y divided by x, so this would be 1 divided by 0, and 1 divided by 0 is undefined. You can't divide by 0, so that's the reason that you have this undefined on your table. So all these spaces between here are the parts of the unit circle where it's undefined. So these are my asymptotes, and you can see, and if you refer back to what you learned in 171, an asymptote is where the graph gets closer and closer and closer to it, but it never crosses it. And you can see, if we scroll out, it's getting closer and closer to that 1, but it won't ever touch the 1. It'll just keep getting closer and closer. No matter how much I scroll out, it's going to get close to that, but never cross it. So that's an asymptote there, and you're going to see that in the graph of tangent. Now, if we put cotangent, let's put cotangent in there. So if tangent is sine divided by cosine, then cotangent would be cosine divided by sine. And so it's flip-flopped. It has, over here at 90 degrees, your 90 and up 0. So the areas between where the asymptotes are in different places, but they still have the asymptotes. Because if you were to do the point 0, 1, whoops, which is here, 0, remember, is cosine, 1 is sine, and cotangent is cosine divided by sine. So this would be 0 divided by 1, which would be 0. So at that point, which is out 0 and up 1, that's at 90 degrees. So if we go out to where it's 90 degrees, you can see 90 degrees is right here, and we actually do have, let's keep going until we see it, a point at 90 degrees. It's not undefined, it's at 0. But if we do 1, 0, and cotangent is cosine divided by sine, so on the unit circle, if we're looking at 1, 0, and we do the 1 divided by 0, that would be undefined. So at that degree marking, which at 1, 0, out 1, up 0 would be at 0 degrees. And if I click on that, there's no graph there. It's undefined there. There's no piece of my graph right there on that point. There's no line that I can click on. So where there are no lines, that's where it's undefined. And so both cotangent and tangent are going to look like this because it's going to have the asymptotes in those areas. So that's what those graphs look like.